So I had an interesting discussion with one of my buddies this week, and he's a good friend of mine, and we don't always agree on everything, um, which is great. I mean, I don't really want. I love having friends that we agree on a lot of stuff, but it's great when you can have an honest and real discussion with a friend who doesn't agree with everything, right? Like that's how we open our minds to things. That's how we become better people. So it's great because neither of us take any offense to that stuff. Like when we're having an in-depth discussion and disagreeing, we're always very respectful with each other. And one of the things he had mentioned, he said, "Hey man, you know, I'm not so sure about the hat in the video. Like, I think you look better without a hat on." And he's known me for about 6 years now, 5, 6 years. And for a good chunk of that time, I had like a blonde mohawk that I kept sort of combed to one side for like a few years there. And he's kind of known me for a while where I was in like not wearing a hat phase. And for a while, I had this camouflage baseball cap that like got washed too much and it was kind of floppy and like it just sort of like was a regular hat. Peak was all curved and stuff. And he was saying because lately I've been wearing a flat brimmed kind of cap or this one here where like this is sort of old like right, this is old 80s 90s skate style with the peak curved up. And I said, yeah, I'm wearing a hat because right now I'm trying to grow my hair back in, and it's just like it's not a hairstyle, right? It's not a hairdo, it's a hair don't right now. So I've just been wearing a hat, and he was like, yeah, but like you're wearing these like flat caps, but also you sort of cock it out to the side. And he's like, I think a lot of people associate that with like a gangster, a thug, a drug dealer, um, and maybe they do. But what I said to him was like, I'm just kind of being true to myself. Like this is kind of who I am. Um, here, here's a picture of me. I think I'm going to say about 18 in this picture. And look at that. First of all, clean shaven, no wrinkles. Like a kid here, right? So many years ago. But look at that hat. Flat, cocked to the side. I've been wearing my hats like this since I was a teenager. Maybe that's not a good thing, right? Maybe some people might interpret this as like a 50s something guy trying to still be like he's like a teenager or something. But I would argue this. I'm actually being totally true to myself. This is who I've been my whole life. I still dress, I'm still wearing t-shirts, like skate t-shirts, like I wore when I was a teenager. I haven't changed at all. If anything, I'm my authentic self that I've been for forever. And if we want to talk about being judged, which is what I wanted to kind of talk about in this video, I'll tell you this. My hat, the least of my worries. This, 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 more common now, okay? Fair to, like, I am fairly covered. My legs are pretty covered. Like my torso is covered. I don't have anything on my back. The reason is this: I always felt like I couldn't invest a lot of money in a giant piece on my back that I'll never see. So, but I'm fairly covered in tattoos. And if I'm out in a short sleeve shirt, the first thing you're going to see is like I'm sleeved up pretty good, right? And I was pretty covered with tattoos by the time I was 16, right? So this would have been in like the early 90s, around 1990. And I was the first kid in my high school to have tattoos, and I had a bunch of them. And it made me very popular at that point, right? Like girls really liked me. They're like, "Ooh, bad boy," right? And guys were like, "Oh, dude, he's got tattoos," Like it was a big leap. I always knew I wanted tattoos. I remember seeing a picture of this guy from a band. It was some heavy metal band. I can't remember what band, but he had like a chest piece and like sleeves, and I was like, "Oh, that looks amazing. That's what I want." So I always knew that's how I was going to look. But man, I have been judged. And if I had a dollar for every person that said to me after knowing me for a while, like, hey, I got to be honest, after getting to know you, you're nothing like what I thought you'd be like. And I'm like, why is that? Well, like the way you look. No, like how do I look? Like the tattoos, right? Like people are already, I'm so used to being judged. People have judged me my whole life, and being covered in tattoos back in the 90s when you're a teenager was not the norm. Absolutely not the norm, right? I stuck out like a sore thumb. Um, did people have tattoos in the 90s? Yeah, lots of people had tattoos, and lots of my friends had like a tattoo, right? Like a little piece on their shoulder, or like some barbed wire around their arm or something. But most people were not like loaded up on tattoos like I was by the time I was 19. Um, and I've been judged. I've had people come up in stores and literally just grab my arm and go, "And what are you gonna think when you get old?" Like, I've had people do that, and I was like, "You're making a lot of assumptions about me. You're assuming that like I did this on a whim, and that like I'm gonna look back on this one day and just be like, oh my God." But I'll tell you the worst case of judgment. Okay, this is a very personal story. So as I started becoming more and more tattooed, my dad really turned on me. My mom hated it, but my dad really turned on me, and it severed our relationship. Basically, by the time I was 19, we stopped talking until I was in my mid 30s. We stopped talking for about 15 years. If I was going over to my parents' house for some reason, I mean, I would still see him on a birthday or something. And if I went over, my mom would call and say, "Hey, make sure you wear a long sleeve shirt and long pants, and we're not going to talk about this." And my dad and I just wouldn't talk. It was awkward for 15 years. We still don't have the best relationship. Like we're not. He's not mean to me or anything, but like it's a bit strained, right? I mean, it's hard. It's hard to forgive. Like, I mean, my father turned on me just because of my skin, just because I did this to my skin, right? And I get it. He was born in 39, right? He's a totally different generation. And for him, the only people that were covered in tattoos were criminals and sailors, right? So he also, I know he loved me, right? And I know that he was really upset that I had thrown my future like right down the tubes, that I had really ruined my life by getting covered in tattoos. And I think by the time I was in my late 30s and I was doing fine in life, I think then he started to maybe ease up and realize. But I think also as he's in his late 80s now, I think he's starting to feel like he doesn't want to pass away with that type of relationship with his son. Maybe, yeah, it was hard. It was hard. So I was at a concert once in St. Catharines, right? This at a local club there, and I was crowd surfing, and the bouncers pulled me down and beat the living daylights out of me. Right? They pulled me off once and said, "Don't crowd surf," and then they pulled me off the second time for crowd surfing and literally beat me senseless. Right? Black eye, like bloody nose, like they beat me. And I went home that night. I told my dad, right? I went straight home and I was like, "Hey, man, look, like I don't know what to do. Do I call the police? What do I do here?" And my dad said, "You wanna look like a tough guy? You better be a tough guy. It's your fault." And that's it. And he walked away from me. That's what he said to me. I mean, that's that. I get it. I know why he felt the way he felt, but at the end of the day, I was his son, and he really turned his back on me because of the way I chose to look. So, I mean, if you want to talk about judgment, this is the least of my fucking worries. People think like, dude, that dude looks a pretend gangster because he's wearing his hat broke off to the side. Like, that's what I've been doing my whole life, man. And to me, when I see this, I think skateboarder or hip hop. That's what I think. This is hip hop and skateboarding to me, not gangster, right? But again, a lot of what we see in life is shaped by how we grew up, our experiences, right? So I get it. I get some people are going to think a certain way about me because of the tattoos, or I choose to have a hat like this, or I'm 50 years old still wearing skateboard t-shirts. Like, I get that. That's cool. That's okay. And if you think that stuff about me, that's totally fine. That's your opinion. But like, does that opinion matter to me? We're probably not going to be friends anyway. We're from two different subcultures, and if like somebody wants to judge me right off the bat by the way I look in a negative, like they want to judge me negatively for the way I look or the way I dress or my style or fashion, then that tells me a lot about who they are as a person. And we're probably not going to be friends anyway. So maybe it's best that we find that out at that stage before we get further in the relationship. But yeah, that's sort of my 2 cents on being judged. We're all being judged. We're all being judged all the time, right? Everybody's being judged, and I can guarantee you there's a bunch of punk rock kids that look at some guy in a business suit and think he's a wiener, right? So like where if we all lived our lives according to how, and a lot of people do, right? Live their life according to how they think others will perceive them. That's a tough life. And I will say this, I have a fairly strong personality. I have never, I have never cared, not as a teenager. I cared what my peers, my direct friends thought, but I never cared what people thought. I didn't care if they made fun of me. I got made fun of all through high school for being a skateboarder. I was a skateboarder back in 87, and 87 to 1990-ish, not cool. Not cool to be a skateboarder. Girls thought you were an immature kid with a toy. They thought you were a loser. It wasn't the image of skateboarders nowadays, and anybody who's as old as I am or a little older will remember that. We were not liked. We were considered trash even at the high school. If you were a skateboarder, you skated to school and carried your skateboard around, you were already isolated and judged. So I've chosen a different path my whole life. I've decided to go left when most people went right, and that's fine with me. And I'll tell you this, at this point, middle of my life, I'm not going to change now, man. I am who I am. It's baked into me. It's in my DNA. And you know, to quote the old Saturday Night Live skit of Stuart Smalley, I believe his name was. Gosh darn it, I like me.